39. Baby discovered mother bear. Was secret benefactor of children's hospital. Everyone was in tears. The morning light filtered through the tall windows of Mercy Children's Hospital, casting gentle shadows across the polished floors. Lily Morgan pressed her small face against the cool glass of her room's window, watching the world wake up below. At 7 years old, she had spent more mornings in this place than any child should. But there was something different about today. Something that made her heart flutter with a curiosity she couldn't quite name. "Look, Daddy," she whispered, her breath fogging the window as her father, Ethan Marshall, approached with a steaming cup of coffee. "The flowers are back." Ethan set down his cup and joined his daughter at the window, his tired eyes following her pointing finger to the hospital's front steps. There, arranged in a perfect circle, were the most extraordinary flowers he had ever seen. They seemed to glow with an inner light, their petals shimmering like captured starlight even in the early morning sun. The sight took his breath away, just as it had every morning for the past 3 weeks. "They're beautiful, sweetheart," he said softly, wrapping his arm around Lily's thin shoulders. She leaned into him, her warmth a precious reminder of why he spent every night in that uncomfortable hospital chair. "Do you think they'll stay all day like yesterday?" Lily nodded, her eyes never leaving the mysterious display. "They always stay until the moon comes up. Then they disappear like magic." She turned to look at her father with those bright, knowing eyes that sometimes seemed far too wise for her age. "Daddy, do you think someone is trying to tell us something?" Before moving into the story, let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories like this one. The question hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility. Ethan had wondered the same thing countless times, but hearing it from Lily's lips made it feel more real, more urgent. These weren't ordinary flowers. They appeared without explanation, glowed without any visible light source, and seemed to bring an inexplicable sense of peace to everyone who saw them. The other children had noticed too. Their faces lit up when they spotted the daily display, and even the most homesick among them seemed to find comfort in the mysterious gift. Dr. Sarah Chen had been the first to mention it to Ethan 3 weeks ago. She had pulled him aside after Lily's morning treatment, her usually composed expression touched with wonder. "Mr. Marshall, I've been working in pediatric medicine for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this. The children are responding better to treatment, sleeping more peacefully, and their overall spirits have improved dramatically since these flowers started appearing." Ethan had listened with the skeptical ear of a man who had heard too many false hopes, but he couldn't deny what he was seeing with his own eyes. Lily's color had improved. Her appetite had returned. She laughed more often, and the dark circles under her eyes had begun to fade. Whatever was happening, it was working. The mystery deepened when the hospital's security footage revealed nothing. Every morning, the cameras showed empty steps at midnight, and then, as if by magic, the flowers were simply there when the sun rose. No person, no vehicle, no explanation. Just the gentle gift that arrived with the dawn and vanished with the stars. Lily pressed her palm against the window, and Ethan noticed how steady her hand looked. Just a month ago, it would have trembled with weakness. "Daddy, I had that dream again last night." "The one with the big, gentle friend?" Ethan asked, though he already knew the answer. Lily had been having the same dream for weeks now, always describing it with the same sense of peace and comfort. "She's not scary at all," Lily said, her voice filled with the certainty that only children possess. "She's sad sometimes, but she's kind. Really, really kind. And she has the most beautiful eyes, like looking into a warm, safe place." She paused, considering her words carefully. I think she's the one bringing us the flowers, Daddy. I think she wants to help." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine, not from fear, but from the strange recognition that his daughter might be right. He had always trusted Lily's instincts. Even as a toddler, she had possessed an unusual ability to sense things that others missed. If she felt a connection to whoever was bringing these miraculous flowers, then perhaps there was more to this mystery than anyone realized. The hospital corridor buzzed with its usual morning activity as nurses made their rounds and doctors reviewed charts. But today, there was something different in the air. Ethan could see it in the way the staff moved with a lighter step, in the smiles that came more easily, in the gentle hum of contentment that seemed to permeate the entire building. Whatever force was behind the daily flower display, its influence extended far beyond the front steps. "Mr. Marshall?" A familiar voice called from the doorway. Dr. Avery Johnson stood there with her clipboard, but her usual professional demeanor was softened by genuine curiosity. "Could I speak with you for a moment?" Ethan kissed the top of Lily's head and promised to be right back. He found Dr. Johnson in the hallway, her brow furrowed with the kind of concentration that meant she was working through a puzzle that didn't have an easy solution. "I've been studying those flowers," she said without preamble. "I managed to collect a few petals yesterday evening before they disappeared, and the results are fascinating. The cellular structure is unlike anything in our botanical databases, and they seem to emit a very low-level bioluminescence that our equipment can barely detect." Ethan leaned against the wall, processing this information. "What does that mean exactly?" "Honestly, I'm not sure, but I can tell you that the air quality in the hospital has improved since they started appearing. The children are reporting better sleep, less anxiety, and their recovery rates have increased by nearly 30%. Dr. Johnson shook her head in amazement. "In 15 years of practice, I've never seen anything like it." "And you have no idea where they're coming from?" "None whatsoever. But Mr. Marshall, I want you to know that whatever is happening here, it's helping your daughter. Her latest blood work shows improvement across the board, and her energy levels are the best they've been since her admission." Ethan felt a wave of gratitude wash over him, mixed with a deep curiosity about their mysterious benefactor. Someone or something was going to extraordinary lengths to help these children, asking for nothing in return. The thought filled him with both wonder and a burning desire to understand why. That evening, as the sun began to set behind the trees that bordered the hospital grounds, Ethan found himself drawn once again to Lily's window. She had fallen asleep during her afternoon treatment, but even in sleep she seemed more peaceful than she had in months. The flowers were still there on the steps below, their gentle glow beginning to intensify as darkness approached. He was about to turn away when movement caught his eye. At the edge of the forest, just visible in the fading light, a large shadow moved between the trees. It was too distant and too dark to make out clearly, but something about its size and the way it moved made Ethan's heart race. It wasn't human. It was far too large, too graceful in a way that spoke of wild things and ancient wisdom. The shadow paused at the forest's edge, and for a moment Ethan could have sworn it was looking directly at the hospital. Then, as quietly as it had appeared, it melted back into the darkness of the trees, leaving him to wonder if he had imagined the entire encounter. "Daddy?" Lily's sleepy voice called from behind him. "Did you see her too?" Ethan turned to find his daughter sitting up in bed, her eyes bright with recognition. "See who, sweetheart?" "My friend from the dreams." "She was watching over us, wasn't she?" Lily's voice held no fear, only a deep sense of connection that made Ethan's chest tighten with emotion. He returned to her bedside and smoothed her hair back from her forehead. "I saw something, Lily. something special. She's lonely, Lily said with the matter-of-fact tone that children use when stating obvious truths. She misses someone very much, but she still wants to help us feel better. That's why she brings the flowers. They're like hugs made of light. The poetry of his daughter's words brought tears to Ethan's eyes. If there truly was some benevolent force watching over the hospital, some creature capable of such selfless generosity, then he needed to understand more. Not to exploit or expose, but to perhaps find a way to express the gratitude that filled his heart every time he watched his daughter's strength return. As the night deepened and the mysterious flowers began their nightly fade, Ethan made a decision. Tomorrow, he would begin his own investigation. Not as a skeptic looking to debunk a mystery, but as a father seeking to understand the miracle that was healing his child. Whatever secrets the forest held, whatever gentle soul was responsible for these daily gifts, he would approach with the respect and reverence that such kindness deserved. The next morning brought another perfect circle of glowing flowers, and with it, a renewed sense of purpose in Ethan's heart. He watched Lily's face light up at the sight, saw the hope bloom in her eyes like the mysterious petals themselves, and knew that some mysteries were worth pursuing, not for answers, but for the journey of understanding they provided. Dr. Avery Johnson found Ethan in the hospital cafeteria later that morning, nursing his third cup of coffee and staring out at the forest beyond the parking lot. She approached with the cautious step of someone who had spent the night wrestling with impossible questions. "I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday," she said, settling into the chair across from him. "About the flowers, about the improvements we're seeing in the children. I know this might sound strange, but I think we need to consider the possibility that we're dealing with something beyond our current understanding of medicine or science." Ethan looked at her with renewed interest. Dr. Johnson was known for her practical, evidence-based approach to treatment. If she was willing to entertain extraordinary possibilities, then perhaps his own growing certainty wasn't as far-fetched as it seemed. "What are you suggesting?" he asked. "I'm suggesting that maybe the question isn't how these flowers work, but why someone or something is going to such lengths to help our patients. The therapeutic effect is undeniable, but the method suggests an intelligence, a purposeful intent that goes beyond random natural phenomena." Ethan nodded slowly. "My daughter seems to think she knows who's responsible. She's been having dreams about a gentle, caring presence, someone she describes as sad but determined to help." Dr. Johnson leaned forward, her scientific curiosity fully engaged. Dreams can sometimes be our subconscious mind's way of processing information we're not consciously aware of. If Lily is sensitive to whatever force is at work here, her dreams might be providing us with valuable insights. "She saw something last night," Ethan continued. "Or rather, she knew I had seen something. A large figure at the edge of the forest, watching the hospital. She wasn't frightened by it at all. In fact, she seemed comforted by the idea that this presence was looking out for us." The two sat in contemplative silence for a moment, both grappling with the implications of what they were discussing. Finally, "Doctor." Johnson spoke again, her voice filled with a mixture of professional caution and human wonder. "Mr. Marshall, I want you to know that regardless of the source, these flowers are having a profoundly positive effect on every child in this ward. Lily's recovery has been remarkable, but she's not the only one. We're seeing improvements across the board, and I believe that whatever intelligence is behind this gift understands exactly what these children need." Ethan felt a surge of gratitude toward their mysterious benefactor, whoever or whatever they might be. The thought that some benevolent force was watching over his daughter, over all the children in the hospital, filled him with a warmth that had nothing to do with the coffee in his hands. That afternoon, as Lily worked on her latest drawing, Ethan marveled at the detail and care she put into each sketch. Her recent artwork had taken on a consistent theme: a large maternal figure surrounded by glowing flowers, always depicted with gentle eyes and an aura of protective love. The figure was clearly not human, but there was something unmistakably nurturing about the way Lily portrayed it. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" Lily said, noticing her father's attention to her work. "She reminds me of the stories Mommy used to tell me about guardian angels, except she's not an angel. She's something even more special." Ethan's throat tightened at the mention of Lily's mother, who had passed away 2 years earlier. Sarah had always believed in the magic of the natural world, in the idea that love could transcend the boundaries of species and circumstance. Looking at his daughter's drawings, he could almost hear Sarah's voice encouraging him to keep an open mind, to trust in the possibility of miracles. "Tell me more about your dreams, sweetheart," he said, settling into the chair beside her bed. Lily set down her crayons and looked out the window toward the forest. "She comes to me when I'm sleeping, but it doesn't feel like a dream. It feels like visiting with a friend. She doesn't talk with words, but I can understand what she's feeling. She's lost someone very important to her, someone small and precious, and that's why she understands how scared we all are in here." The wisdom in his daughter's words struck Ethan like a physical blow. If their mysterious benefactor was indeed grieving a loss, then perhaps the flowers were more than just a gift. Perhaps they were a form of healing for both the giver and the receiver, a way of transforming pain into purpose. "She wants us to know that we're not alone," Lily continued, her voice taking on the dreamy quality it always held when she spoke of her nocturnal visitor. "She wants us to know that someone cares about us, someone who understands what it feels like to be afraid for someone you love." As evening approached and the flowers began their nightly transformation from gentle glow to brilliant luminescence, Ethan made a decision that would change everything. He would spend the night watching, waiting, hoping to catch a glimpse of the being who had brought such hope into their lives. Not to intrude or disturb, but to perhaps find a way to communicate his gratitude for the miracle of his daughter's recovery. He kissed Lily good night and settled into his chair by the window, prepared for a long vigil. The hospital grew quiet around him, filled with the peaceful sleep of children who no longer feared the dark. Outside, the mysterious flowers pulsed with their otherworldly light, a beacon of hope in the darkness. As midnight approached, Ethan felt his eyelids growing heavy despite his determination to stay alert. The gentle glow of the flowers seemed to have a hypnotic effect, lulling him into a state of peaceful contemplation. Just as he was about to succumb to sleep, a movement in the forest caught his attention. A large shape emerged from between the trees, moving with a grace that seemed to defy its size. Even in the darkness, Ethan could see that this was no ordinary forest creature. There was an intelligence in its movement, a purposefulness that spoke of deep thought and careful planning. As it approached the hospital steps, Ethan held his breath, afraid that any movement might frighten away this miraculous visitor. What he saw next would stay with him for the rest of his life. The creature moved among the fading flowers with infinite gentleness, its massive form somehow delicate in its ministrations. It was gathering the spent blooms, collecting them with the same care a mother might show when tucking in a sleeping child. And in that moment, Ethan understood that he was witnessing something sacred, something that transcended the boundaries between species and touched the very heart of what it meant to love. The creature paused in its work and looked up at the hospital windows, its gaze seeming to find Ethan despite the darkness. For a moment that felt like eternity, they regarded each other across the distance. Then, with what Ethan could only interpret as a gentle acknowledgement, The creature returned to its task before disappearing back into the forest, leaving behind only the promise of tomorrow's miraculous gift. Ethan remained at the window long after the creature had vanished, his heart full of wonder and gratitude. He now knew with absolute certainty that their mysterious benefactor was real, was caring, and was driven by a love that needed no explanation or reward. Tomorrow, he would begin planning his own journey into the forest, not to disturb this gentle soul, but to find a way to express the gratitude of every parent, every child, every person whose life had been touched by this extraordinary gift of compassion. As dawn broke and the new day's flowers appeared in their perfect circle, Ethan watched his daughter wake to their gentle glow and knew that some miracles were meant to be protected, cherished, and honored rather than solved. The mystery of their forest guardian would remain, but the love that drove such selfless generosity would continue to heal hearts and kindle hope for as long as it was needed. The morning brought Dr. Avery Johnson to Lily's room with test results that confirmed what Ethan's heart already knew. His daughter was getting stronger every day, her body responding to treatment in ways that defied medical explanation but aligned perfectly with the timeline of the flower's appearance. As he watched Lily sketch another portrait of her gentle dream friend, Ethan felt a profound sense of connection to the natural world and to the mysterious forces that sometimes intervene in human lives with nothing but love as their motivation. The mystery was far from solved, but the miracle was undeniable. And as Ethan prepared for the next phase of his investigation, he carried with him the knowledge that somewhere in the forest, a grieving heart had found a way to transform its pain into healing for others. It was a lesson in compassion that would guide him through whatever revelations lay ahead, and a testament to the power of love to transcend every boundary that might seem to separate one soul from another. Dr. Avery Johnson had spent the better part of the morning reviewing patient files, and the pattern she was seeing defied every principle of medicine she had learned in her 15-year career. The children's recovery rates had not just improved, they had accelerated in ways that should have been impossible. Blood work showed enhanced immune responses, sleep studies revealed deeper, more restorative rest patterns, and psychological evaluations indicated a marked decrease in anxiety and depression across the entire pediatric ward. She found Ethan in the hospital's small garden area, watching Lily play with some of the other children. For the first time in months, his daughter was running, laughing, her cheeks flushed with the kind of healthy color that had been absent for so long. The sight filled Dr. Johnson with professional satisfaction and personal joy, but it also deepened the mystery that had been consuming her thoughts. "Mr. Marshall, I need to share something with you," she said, approaching with a thick folder of test results and research notes. "What we're seeing here goes beyond anything I can explain through conventional medicine." Ethan looked up from watching his daughter, his expression a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. "Good news, I hope?" "The best possible news for the children, but it raises questions that I'm not sure how to answer." Dr. Johnson settled onto the bench beside him and opened her folder. "I've been comparing the recovery rates, sleep patterns, and overall health indicators of our patients from before and after the flowers started appearing. The improvement is so dramatic and so consistent that it can't be coincidental." She pulled out a series of charts and graphs, pointing to the clear upward trends that marked each child's progress. "Look at this data. Every single patient in the ward has shown improvement, regardless of their condition, their treatment protocol, or their prognosis when they were admitted. It's as if some external factor is enhancing their natural healing processes." Ethan studied the charts, seeing his daughter's remarkable progress reflected in the experiences of every child in the hospital. "You think it's connected to the flowers?" "I think it's connected to whatever intelligence is behind the flowers, Doctor," Johnson replied. I've been researching similar phenomena, and while there are scattered reports throughout history of unexplained healing events, nothing quite matches what we're experiencing here. The consistency, the gentleness, the fact that it's focused specifically on children. It suggests a level of understanding and compassion that goes far beyond random chance. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the children play with an energy and joy that had been missing just weeks before. Lily was in the center of the group, her laughter ringing out clear and strong as she chased butterflies among the garden flowers. The sight brought tears to Ethan's eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming gratitude. "There's something else, Doctor," Johnson continued, her voice dropping to a more confidential tone. "I've been having dreams too. Not like what you've described with Lily, but dreams of being watched over, protected by something ancient and wise. I wake up feeling more rested than I have in years, and I find myself approaching my work with a renewed sense of purpose and compassion." Ethan turned to look at her with surprise. "You think whatever is helping the children is affecting the staff as well. I think we're all being touched by something that understands healing on a level we've never encountered before. The nurses have reported similar experiences, and even the maintenance staff seems more cheerful, more dedicated to their work. It's as if the entire hospital has been infused with a spirit of care and compassion that extends beyond anything we could create ourselves." The implications of what Dr. Johnson was suggesting sent a thrill of recognition through Ethan. If their mysterious benefactor was indeed affecting everyone who spent time in the hospital, then the scope of its compassion was even greater than he had imagined. It wasn't just healing the children. It was creating an environment where healing could flourish, where hope could take root and grow. "I saw it last night," Ethan said quietly. "Our mysterious friend. It was collecting the spent flowers, moving among them with such gentleness and care. And when it looked up at the hospital windows, I felt like it was acknowledging not just my presence, but my gratitude." Dr. Johnson leaned forward with intense interest. "What did it look like? Could you make out any details?" "Large, definitely not human, but there was something unmistakably maternal about its movements. The way it handled the flowers reminded me of a mother tucking in a sleeping child, and its eyes, even in the darkness, I could sense a depth of emotion that was both heartbreaking and beautiful." "Lily's drawings, Doctor," Johnson said suddenly. "She's been sketching the same figure for weeks now. A large, nurturing presence surrounded by glowing flowers. What if she's not just dreaming? What if she's somehow connected to whatever is helping us?" The thought sent a chill of recognition through Ethan. His daughter had always been sensitive to things that others missed, but the consistency of her dreams and drawings suggested something deeper than childhood imagination. If Lily was indeed in communication with their mysterious benefactor, then perhaps there was a way to better understand the gift they were receiving. That afternoon, Ethan sat with his daughter as she worked on her latest sketch. This one was different from the others, more detailed, more specific in its imagery. The maternal figure was shown in a forest clearing, surrounded by the same glowing flowers that appeared each morning at the hospital. But this time, there was something else in the drawing. A smaller figure beside the larger one, clearly young and vulnerable. "Lily, who is this?" Ethan asked, pointing to the smaller figure. His daughter looked up from her work with eyes that seemed far too knowing for her age. "That's her baby," she said simply. "She's sick, just like we are. That's why the mama understands how scared our daddies and mommies are. She's scared too." The revelation hit Ethan like a physical blow. If their mysterious benefactor was indeed a mother caring for her own sick child, then the flowers took on an entirely different meaning. They weren't just gifts of healing. They were expressions of solidarity, of understanding, of one parent reaching out to others in the same situation. She brings us the flowers because she knows how it feels to watch someone you love suffer, Lily continued, her voice taking on the dreamy quality it always held when she spoke of her nocturnal visitor. She can't make her own baby better, but she can help us feel less alone. Tears streamed down Ethan's face as the full impact of his daughter's words sank in. Their mysterious benefactor wasn't just a benevolent force. It was a grieving parent, transforming its own pain into a source of comfort for others facing the same fears. The thought filled him with a mixture of profound gratitude and deep sorrow for the creature's own loss. "Daddy, she wants to meet you," Lily said suddenly, looking up from her drawing with bright, excited eyes. "She's been waiting for you to understand. And now that you do, she wants to show you something important." Ethan's heart raced at the possibility. When? Where? Tomorrow night, when the moon is full, she'll be waiting in the clearing where the special flowers grow. "But Daddy, you have to promise to be very quiet and very respectful." She's still sad about her baby, and loud noises make her remember too much. The trust that his daughter placed in this mysterious being filled Ethan with a sense of responsibility that went beyond mere curiosity. If he was being invited to meet their benefactor, then he would approach with the reverence and gratitude that such a gift deserved. This wasn't about solving a mystery. It was about honoring a connection that had already saved his daughter's life and brought hope to countless other families. As the day progressed, Ethan found himself preparing for what felt like the most important encounter of his life. He spoke with Dr. Johnson about his plans, and she offered to stay with Lily during his absence. The other staff members, when told about the mysterious healing presence, reacted with a mixture of scientific skepticism and personal gratitude that mirrored Ethan's own journey of understanding. That evening, as the hospital settled into its peaceful nighttime rhythm, Ethan kissed his daughter goodnight and prepared for his journey into the forest. Lily's parting words stayed with him as he made his way toward the trees. "Remember, Daddy, she's just like you. She loves someone very much and would do anything to help them feel better." The forest was alive with the sounds of night creatures as Ethan followed a faint trail of fallen petals deeper into the woods. The path seemed to glow with its own inner light, guiding him toward a destination that felt both mysterious and inevitable. With each step, he felt his understanding of the world expanding, making room for possibilities he had never considered. As he walked, Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. Just weeks ago, he had been a desperate father watching his daughter fade away, clinging to medical treatments and hoping for miracles. Now, he was about to meet the source of the miracle itself, a being whose compassion had reached across the species barrier to offer comfort to grieving families. The trail led him to a clearing bathed in moonlight, where the mysterious flowers grew in abundance. Their glow was more intense here, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere that made Ethan feel as though he had stepped into another world. And there, in the center of the clearing, he saw her. She was magnificent and heartbreaking at the same time, a creature of immense size and obvious strength, yet moving with the delicate care of a mother tending to her most precious treasure. Beside her lay a smaller figure, clearly her offspring, breathing with the labored rhythm that Ethan recognized from his own sleepless nights beside Lily's hospital bed. The mother bear looked up as Ethan entered the clearing, her eyes reflecting a depth of emotion that transcended species. In that gaze, he saw his own fears, his own desperate love, his own willingness to do anything to ease his child's suffering. They regarded each other across the flower-filled space, two parents united by the universal, experience of watching a beloved child struggle with illness. Without words, without movement, a communication passed between them that was deeper than language. Gratitude flowed from Ethan's heart to hers, and in return, he felt her acknowledgement of his understanding, her acceptance of his presence in this sacred space. The flowers around them seemed to pulse with increased intensity, as if responding to the connection being forged between human and bear. Ethan remained still, allowing the moment to unfold naturally. He watched as the mother bear returned her attention to her cub, gently nuzzling the small form with infinite tenderness. The sight broke his heart and healed it simultaneously, showing him that love was indeed the universal language that connected all living beings. As the night deepened, Ethan understood that he was witnessing something that would change him forever. This was more than a meeting between species. It was a communion of souls bound by the shared experience of parental love. The flowers that had saved his daughter's life were born from this same love, transformed into healing energy by a mother's determination to ease suffering wherever she found it. When the time came to leave, Ethan bowed his head in a gesture of respect and gratitude that needed no translation. The mother bear acknowledged his reverence with a gentle inclination of her own massive head, and Ethan knew that this would not be their last encounter. A bond had been formed that would endure as long as both of their children needed healing, as long as love required expression through service to others. The journey back to the hospital passed in a blur of wonder and contemplation. Ethan carried with him not just the memory of what he had witnessed, but a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. The mysterious flowers would continue to appear, he knew, as long as there were children who needed healing, and a mother's love that refused to be contained by the boundaries of species or circumstance. When he returned to Lily's room, he found his daughter sleeping peacefully, her face glowing with the same inner light that emanated from the magical flowers. Dr. Johnson was waiting for him, her expression eager for news of his encounter. "She's real," Ethan whispered, not wanting to disturb the sleeping children. "She's a mother, just like Lily said. She has her own sick child, and she's been sharing her healing energy with our children because she understands what we're going through." Dr. Johnson's eyes filled with tears as the full impact of Ethan's words sank in. A mother bear, caring for human children because she knows what it feels like to fear for your own child's life. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. As they stood together in the quiet hospital room, surrounded by sleeping children who were healing under the care of an unlikely guardian, both Ethan and Dr. Johnson felt their understanding of the world shift to accommodate this new reality. Love, they realized, was not limited by species or circumstance. It was a force that could bridge any gap, heal any wound, and transform even the deepest grief into a source of comfort for others. The mystery of the glowing flowers had been revealed, but the miracle of their healing power would continue as long as there were children in need and a mother's love determined to ease their suffering. In the quiet of the hospital night, surrounded by the gentle glow of inexplicable compassion, Ethan knew that some gifts were too sacred to question, too precious to analyze, and too powerful to ever fully understand. The full moon hung like a silver guardian over the forest as Ethan made his way along the now familiar trail of glowing petals. 3 nights had passed since Dr. Johnson had agreed to help him document their extraordinary discovery, and tonight felt different. There was an urgency in the air, a sense that something significant was about to unfold. Lily had been unusually excited all day, her drawings taking on a new intensity as she sketched scenes of reunion and healing that seemed to come from some deep well of knowing within her young heart. "She's waiting for you, Daddy," Lily had whispered as he kissed her goodnight. "Tonight is special. Tonight you'll understand everything. The weight of his daughter's words carried him forward through the moonlit forest, his heart pounding with anticipation and reverence. In his backpack, he carried a simple offering, a photo of Lily from before her illness, smiling and healthy, along with drawings from some of the other children in the ward. He had no idea if such gestures would be understood or appreciated, but the need to express gratitude in some tangible way had become overwhelming. The clearing appeared before him like a vision from another world, bathed in the ethereal light of countless glowing flowers that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of a great, gentle heart. But tonight, the scene was different. The mother bear was not tending to the flowers or caring for her cub in the usual quiet manner. Instead, she was moving with purpose, gathering specific blooms and arranging them in patterns that spoke of ritual and intention. Ethan approached slowly, his footsteps silent on the soft forest floor. As he drew closer, he could see that the bear's cub was more alert tonight, though still clearly weakened by whatever illness plagued its small body. The mother bear looked up as Ethan entered the clearing, and in her eyes he saw something new, hope mixed with desperate determination. She moved toward a section of the clearing where the flowers grew in a perfect spiral pattern, their glow more intense than any Ethan had seen before. With careful deliberation, she began to arrange the blooms she had gathered into a smaller circle within the spiral, her massive paws handling each delicate petal with infinite care. The sight was mesmerizing, like watching a sacred ceremony performed by an ancient priestess who understood mysteries beyond human comprehension. As the mother bear worked, Ethan became aware of a subtle change in the atmosphere around them. The very air seemed to shimmer with energy, and the flowers responded by increasing their luminescence until the entire clearing was bathed in a soft, healing light. The bear's cub lifted its head with more strength than Ethan had witnessed before, and for the first time, he heard it make a sound, a small, hopeful whimper that spoke of returning vitality. The mother bear completed her arrangement and stepped back, her gaze moving between her cub and Ethan with an expression that clearly conveyed her intent. She was sharing something precious with him, something that went beyond the daily gift of flowers to the hospital. This was the source of her power, the wellspring from which her healing energy flowed, and she was trusting him to witness its most sacred manifestation. Ethan watched in awe as the spiral of flowers began to pulse with synchronized light, each bloom contributing to a rhythm that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the earth itself. The energy radiating from the arrangement was palpable, washing over him in waves of warmth and comfort that reminded him of his mother's embrace, of Lily's laughter, of every moment of pure love he had ever experienced. The bear's cub struggled to its feet and moved slowly toward the center of the flower spiral. With each step, its movements became steadier, its breathing deeper and more regular. The mother bear watched with the intense focus of a parent whose entire world depended on this moment, her massive form trembling with hope and fear in equal measure. As the cub reached the center of the spiral and lay down among the glowing blooms, something extraordinary happened. The light from the flowers seemed to flow into the small bear's body, surrounding it with a cocoon of healing energy that made the air itself seem to sing with joy. The transformation was gradual but unmistakable. Color returned to the cub's fur, strength to its limbs, brightness to its eyes. Ethan felt tears streaming down his face as he witnessed this miracle of maternal love made manifest. This was the source of the healing power that had saved his daughter's life, the wellspring of compassion that had brought hope to an entire hospital ward. The mother bear had discovered or created something that could channel love itself into a force for healing, and she had been sharing that gift with human children because she understood that all parents shared the same desperate need to see their children thrive. The ceremony continued for what felt like hours, though time seemed suspended in the magical glow of the clearing. Gradually, the intensity of the light began to fade, but the change in the bear cub was permanent and profound. It stood on steady legs, its eyes bright with renewed life, its small body radiating the kind of vibrant health that every parent dreams of seeing in their child. The mother bear turned to Ethan with an expression of pure joy mixed with exhaustion. The effort of channeling such powerful healing energy had clearly drained her, but the success of her endeavor filled her with a satisfaction that transcended physical weariness. She had saved her child, just as her gifts to the hospital had been saving human children night after night. Ethan reached into his backpack and withdrew the photo of Lily and the drawings from the other children. He approached slowly, offering these tokens of gratitude with the same reverence he might show in a cathedral or temple. The mother bear accepted his gifts with gentle dignity, studying each image with the careful attention of a mother, recognizing the faces of children she had helped to heal. When she looked up from the drawings, her eyes met Ethan's with a depth of communication that needed no words. In that gaze, he saw acknowledgment of their shared journey, recognition of the bond that had formed between them through their mutual love for their children. She understood his gratitude, just as he understood her sacrifice in sharing her healing power with strangers who could offer nothing in return except their appreciation. The bear cub approached Ethan with the curiosity natural to young creatures, showing no fear of this human who had witnessed its rebirth. Ethan remained perfectly still as the small bear sniffed his hands and clothes, accepting his presence in their sacred space with the trust that only the innocent possess. The moment felt like a benediction, a blessing bestowed by new life upon the witness to its creation. As the night began to wane and the first hints of dawn touched the eastern sky, the mother bear began to gather some of the remaining flowers from the spiral. Ethan understood that she was preparing the next day's gift for the hospital, transforming the residual energy from her cub's healing into medicine for human children who still needed her help. The sight filled Ethan with a profound sense of the interconnectedness of all life. This magnificent creature had found a way to turn her own desperate love into a force for healing that transcended species boundaries. Her gift to the children at the hospital wasn't charity. It was recognition of the universal nature of parental love and the shared vulnerability of all young life. As the mother bear completed her preparations, she turned once more to Ethan with an expression that seemed to convey both gratitude for his witness and a gentle dismissal. The sacred ceremony was complete, her cub was healed, and it was time for him to return to his own world with the knowledge he had gained. Ethan bowed deeply before turning to leave the clearing, carrying with him not just the memory of what he had witnessed, but a transformed understanding of what it meant to love without boundaries. The walk back to the hospital passed in a state of wonder and contemplation, each step bringing him closer to his own daughter, while keeping him connected to the Forrest family that had shared their miracle with him. When he arrived at the hospital, the morning's flowers were already in place, glowing with the same gentle light that had illuminated the healing ceremony. But now Ethan could see them with new eyes, understanding that each petal carried within it the concentrated essence of a mother's love, transformed into medicine by the alchemy of compassion. Lily was awake when he entered her room, her face bright with the kind of knowing smile that suggested she had somehow shared in the night's revelations. "She did it, didn't she, Daddy? She saved her baby, just like she's been saving all of us." Ethan gathered his daughter into his arms, marveling at the strength in her embrace, the vitality that flowed through her small body like a river of renewed life. "Yes, sweetheart, she did it. And now we understand why she's been helping us. She knows what it feels like to almost lose someone you love more than life itself." Dr. Johnson arrived shortly after, her expression eager for news of the night's events. When Ethan described the healing ceremony he had witnessed, she listened with the rapt attention of a scientist encountering phenomena that challenged every assumption about the nature of reality. A mother's love, literally transformed into healing energy, she murmured, shaking her head in wonder. It explains everything: the consistency of the healing effects, the focus on children, the gentle nature of the treatment. We've been witnessing the most powerful force in the universe, channeled through a consciousness that understands suffering and chooses to transform it into hope. The implications of their discovery were staggering, but Ethan found himself less interested in the scientific ramifications than in the profound lesson about love that had been revealed to him. The mother bear had shown him that true compassion knew no boundaries, that the impulse to heal and protect could transcend every difference that might seem to separate one being from another. As the days passed and Lily's recovery continued to accelerate, Ethan found himself returning to the forest clearing whenever the moon was full. Each visit deepened his understanding of the sacred bond that had formed between his family and the bear family, a connection that would endure long after the immediate crisis of illness had passed. The bear cub grew stronger with each passing week, its playful antics bringing joy to its mother's eyes and filling the clearing with the sounds of young life celebrating its return to health. Ethan came to understand that he was witnessing not just a medical miracle, but a testament to the power of love to overcome any obstacle when it was channeled with sufficient determination and selflessness. The mother bear seemed to welcome his regular visits, treating him as a trusted friend who had earned the right to witness the ongoing miracle of her family's healing. Sometimes she would share new flowers with him, their glow indicating that they carried special properties for specific ailments. Other times, she simply allowed him to sit in peaceful contemplation while her cub played among the magical blooms that had saved so many lives. During one particularly memorable visit, Ethan brought news that Lily's latest tests showed complete remission of her illness. The mother bear listened to his joyful words with the understanding that transcended language, her eyes reflecting the same relief and gratitude that filled his own heart. In that moment of shared celebration, the bond between them deepened into something that would last for the rest of their lives. The bear cub, now fully recovered and brimming with youthful energy, seemed to understand the significance of Ethan's announcement. It approached him with a flower in its mouth, not one of the glowing healing blooms, but a simple wildflower that spoke of friendship and the joy of being alive. Ethan accepted the gift with tears in his eyes, understanding that he was being welcomed not just as a witness to miracles, but as a member of an extended family bound together by love and mutual care. As autumn approached and the forest began to prepare for winter's rest, Ethan knew that the daily appearance of flowers at the hospital would soon come to an end. The bear family would need to retreat to their den for hibernation, and the magical blooms that had saved so many lives would fade with the changing seasons. But the healing they had accomplished would endure, and the lessons they had taught about the power of love would continue to inspire all who had been touched by their gift. The last night of the flower vigil arrived with a bittersweet mixture of gratitude and sorrow. Ethan stood in the clearing with the mother bear and her cub, surrounded by the final blooms of the season. The flowers seemed to glow with extra intensity, as if pouring all their remaining energy into one last gift of healing for the children who had come to depend on their daily miracle. The mother bear approached Ethan with a flower unlike any he had seen before, larger than the others, with petals that seemed to contain the essence of starlight itself. As she placed it gently in his hands, he understood that this was more than a parting gift. It was a promise that the healing power they had shared would continue in new forms, that the love that had created such miracles would find other ways to manifest when it was needed most. The bear cub nuzzled against Ethan's leg in a gesture of farewell, its bright eyes reflecting the same gratitude that filled its mother's gaze. In that moment, Ethan felt the completion of a circle that had begun with his desperate fear for his daughter's life and culminated in this profound understanding of love's infinite capacity to heal and transform. As he made his way back to the hospital for the last time as part of this magical routine, Ethan carried with him not just the final flower, but a transformed heart that would never again doubt the reality of miracles or the power of love to transcend every boundary. The Forrest family had given him far more than his daughter's life. They had given him a new understanding of what it meant to be connected to all living things through the universal experience of caring for those we love. The morning brought the last circle of glowing flowers to the hospital steps, their light seeming to bid farewell to the children who had been healed by their presence. But as Ethan watched Lily and the other young patients playing in the garden, their faces bright with health and hope, he knew that the real miracle wasn't ending. It was just beginning to spread in new directions, carried by every person who had witnessed the power of love to transform suffering into healing. Dr. Avery Johnson found Ethan in the hospital garden later that morning, watching the children play with the boundless energy of youth restored to health. The transformation in the pediatric ward over the past months had been nothing short of miraculous, but she knew that the most profound changes had occurred in the hearts and minds of everyone who had witnessed the Bear family's extraordinary gift. "The flowers are fading," she observed, noting how the morning's display had already begun to lose its supernatural glow. "But the healing they've accomplished will last forever." Ethan nodded, his gaze following Lily as she chased butterflies among the ordinary garden flowers that seemed somehow more beautiful now that he understood the magic that could exist in the natural world. "She taught us something that will change how we approach medicine, how we understand the relationship between love and healing. Every child who was touched by her gift will carry that miracle forward into their own lives." Dr. Johnson had spent the past weeks documenting the extraordinary recovery rates they had witnessed, preparing a report that would challenge the medical community's understanding of what was possible when healing was approached with genuine compassion. But she knew that the most important lessons couldn't be captured in scientific papers or medical journals. They lived in the transformed hearts of everyone who had experienced the Bear Mother's selfless love. "I've been thinking about what we learned," she said, settling onto the bench beside Ethan, "about how love can be transformed into a force for healing when it's channeled with enough determination and selflessness. It makes me wonder what other miracles might be possible if we approached our work with the same spirit of compassion that she showed us." The question hung in the air between them, opening up possibilities that neither had considered before their encounter with the Forrest family. If love could indeed be transformed into healing energy, if compassion could transcend the boundaries between species, then perhaps the practice of medicine itself could be elevated to something approaching the sacred. Lily ran up to them at that moment, her arms full of wildflowers she had gathered from the garden. Her face was flushed with exertion and joy, her eyes bright with the kind of vitality that every parent dreams of seeing in their child. She had no memory of the dark days when her life had hung in the balance, when each breath had been a struggle, and each day had brought new fears. For her, the miracle of her recovery was simply the natural order of things, the way life was supposed to be. "Daddy, look what I found," she exclaimed, holding up a flower that bore a striking resemblance to the magical blooms that had appeared each morning at the hospital. "It doesn't glow like the special ones, but it's still beautiful, isn't it?" Ethan took the flower from his daughter's hands, marveling at how something so ordinary could seem so precious when viewed through eyes that had witnessed true miracles. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. All flowers are beautiful when they're given with love." Lily beamed at his words, and ran back to join the other children, her laughter echoing across the garden like music. Watching her go, Ethan felt a profound sense of completion, as if a long and difficult journey had finally reached its destination. His daughter was healed, not just in body but in spirit, and the experience of witnessing her recovery had transformed him in ways he was still discovering. As the weeks passed and autumn deepened into winter, the hospital settled into a new rhythm. The miraculous flowers no longer appeared each morning, but their legacy lived on in the changed atmosphere of the pediatric ward. The staff approached their work with renewed compassion. The children faced their treatments with greater courage, and the families found strength in the shared understanding that healing was possible even in the darkest of circumstances. Ethan returned to his job as an engineer, but his perspective on life had been fundamentally altered by his encounter with the Bear family. He found himself approaching problems with the same patient determination that the mother bear had shown in her nightly vigil, and he carried with him the knowledge that love could indeed work miracles when it was applied with sufficient dedication and selflessness. Dr. Johnson published her research on the extraordinary recovery rates they had witnessed, though she was careful to present the findings in terms that wouldn't invite skepticism or ridicule from the scientific community. The paper became a catalyst for new research into the relationship between emotional support and physical healing, opening doors to treatment approaches that honored the connection between love and recovery. But the most important legacy of the Bear family's gift couldn't be measured in medical journals or research papers. It lived in the hearts of everyone who'd been touched by their compassion, spreading outward like ripples on a pond to influence countless other lives in ways both seen and unseen. Lily grew into a healthy, vibrant child, whose early brush with serious illness had left her with an unusual sensitivity to the suffering of others, and an instinctive understanding of the healing power of kindness. She often spoke of her dream friend, with the fond affection reserved for beloved family members, and her artwork continued to feature the gentle, nurturing figure who had played such a crucial role in her recovery. Years later, when Lily was old enough to understand the full story of her miraculous healing, Ethan would take her back to the forest clearing where the Bear family had performed their sacred ceremonies. The magical flowers were gone, but the clearing remained a place of peace and reflection, a testament to the enduring power of love to transform suffering into hope. Standing in that sacred space with his healthy, happy daughter, Ethan would remember the desperate father he had been just a few years earlier, and he would feel overwhelmed with gratitude for the mysterious forces that had intervened to save not just Lily's life, but his faith in the possibility of miracles. The Bear family had given him far more than his daughter's health. They had given him a new understanding of what it meant to be part of the great web of life that connected all living beings through the universal experience of love. The clearing would become a pilgrimage site for Ethan and Lily, a place where they could return whenever they needed to remember the miracle that had changed their lives and the profound lesson about compassion that had been revealed to them in their darkest hour. And sometimes, on nights when the moon was full and the forest was filled with the quiet magic of growing things, they would catch a glimpse of a large, gentle figure moving among the trees, a reminder that the love that had saved them was still present in the world, still working its quiet miracles for those who needed healing most. The story of the Bear family's gift would be passed down through generations, not as a tale of impossible magic, but as a testament to the reality of love's power to transcend every boundary and heal every wound. And in a world that often seemed divided by differences and darkened by suffering, it would serve as a beacon of hope, reminding all who heard it that compassion knows no limits, and that miracles are always possible when hearts are open to the transformative power of unconditional love.